Joining me right now is former Trump campaign director of data and strategy, Matt Braynard, and Rebel Communications CEO and Democratic strategist, Laura Fink. Great to see you both this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Matt, kick us off here. What do you think about the candidates' messages over the weekend?
Yeah, I know Joe Biden's making a play for his home state of Pennsylvania, but the problem is he spent the last 10 years telling everybody west of Pennsylvania he's going to kick them out of their jobs because he's opposed fracking, opposed coal mining, and any kind of fossil fuel-related industry, and that's pivotal to that state. And that is, for him, a must-win state. And now he's running around trying to convince people that, oh, you know, I didn't really mean what I said I mean. You're not going to lose your jobs. I'm still going to support your industry, despite having gone over and over and over again, telling people, look me in my eyes, I'm gonna shut down the fossil fuel industry. And I don't think it's going to sell in Pennsylvania. That's where he's putting his effort now.
Yeah, so what about that, Laura? I mean, what is Joe Biden's plan for the economy? With we know already that he wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. What else do you believe is critical for the economy that Joe Biden is pushing?
Well, let me first address the fact that fracking right now doesn't even rate in terms of an economic viable solution because of the oil prices, as we all know from looking at the market. So that seems a little bit out of hand. That said, I think Joe Biden's economic recovery plan is frankly what he did in 2008 with Barack Obama, saving the auto industry. He's shown and proven that he can accelerate a recovery in a way that we have not seen President Trump even attempt to do. With 6 months to get the economy and with all due respect,
Laura, that's not true. Yeah, that's not true.
It's not true.
The slowest recovery of any economy. No, you just have to look at the numbers. He oversaw the slowest recovery of any recovery, which is the jobs after 2008.
Let's talk about what's happening right now, though.
And say that the number of jobs, frankly, is slowing. So here we are in the middle of an economic crisis connected to a health crisis and a pure failure on the part of the president to address either one substantively. You got to look at where we are right now. That's how Americans are going to be voting.
What Joe Biden's alternative
about economic numbers and minor points.
Joe Biden's alternative is to shut the economy down. And part of the reason the economy is hurting so much now is because you have so many Democrat governors in their states mismanaging horrifically this pandemic and still completely locking down their states. States like New York, states like Pennsylvania, that it's really out of the president's hands when these governors decide they're going to completely shut down these states despite having a tremendous number of COVID deaths.
It's out of his hands.
And they need to own that.
Which is why this battle for the swing states, is really ramping up. You mentioned, Matt, Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is in Pennsylvania. He was there yesterday. President Trump is headed to North Carolina and Florida today to talk with voters. So, Laura, what about that? Where do you think the voters stand in these crucial states where jobs are among the most important issues?
I totally agree with that. And I think Joe Biden is up by around 4 or 5 points in Pennsylvania. He's up by a couple in Florida.
Poll numbers aren't an argument.
They're clearly battleground states. But what I will tell you is I would rather be in Joe Biden's position going into the last 60 days of the election than in President Trump's. He is behind in virtually every critical swing state for him. And that's because really it's about, we're talking about all these issues. But at the end of the day, voters are deciding based on who they can trust. And right now they're saying over and over again that they trust Joe Biden with this economy, and more fundamentally, they trust him with the coronavirus recovery because they're not buying what's being sold here, that it's all the governor's fault. They know that a president needs to lead in crisis like this. That is the ultimate referendum on his performance, and right now he's failing with voters.
Yeah.
When the president has moved mountains to get this vaccine developed faster than any vaccine in the history of the world to try to save our most vulnerable, suddenly the Democrat ticket has turned anti-vaxxer. Whether or not this vaccine, whether they think it's going to be successful or not, they're already throwing cold water on it, saying we're not going to take it. So they'd rather have people who are vulnerable to this disease be afraid of taking a vaccine that could save their lives because it might make Trump look good if he actually ends up getting this vaccine through and saving people's lives. Kamala Harris said she wouldn't take it.
What about the fact that Joe, I mean, that's true in terms of Kamala Harris saying she wouldn't take it. I mean, should this kind of rhetoric be spoken about now to scare people to not take the vaccine? But, Laura, you're mentioning the economy. Joe Biden said very clearly just a few weeks ago, I would shut it down. I mean, can we really afford another shutdown right now? You've got small business owners out there desperate for some foot traffic, for revenue, just to keep the lights on. And Joe Biden says we're going to shut it down again.
Well, here's what I'd say. I'd say that you have to look at the coronavirus effort first. You have to look at the case rate, and you have to look at the infection rate. We're seeing South Dakota, Iowa, and Maine see outbreaks. And your response to it, you cannot have an economy when the coronavirus is raging, and you can't pretend they're disconnected. So to get those small business owners with their doors open, it's important to get that under control. And right now, it's simply not.
Biden has offered no compelling solution, and everything he said on this, just much like foreign policy, everything he said has turned out to be wrong, like not stopping flights coming back from China. Absolutely wrong. And the problem here is that, look, this economy is surging back, and he is exactly the wrong person to take lead. You say people trust him with the economy. I mean, he can't even be trusted to read a teleprompter correctly.
I mean, that may be you, but the American people are not on the same page right now. Frankly, they are looking to Joe Biden in virtually every category and rating him higher than President Trump.
I think most people Trump. No, but I think most people trust Trump on the economy, Laura. I mean, when you look at these even the polls, and you can argue if the polls are right or not.
Maria, literally,
his own campaign doesn't trust him without a teleprompter.
To keep them safe, they trust Biden more. To recover the coronavirus outbreak, they trust Biden more. I mean, you look at to handle crime, they trust Biden more.
Why should they trust him more? Why should they trust him more in the name one thing he said that made any sense that would make us any better than we are right now. Name one thing.
I mean, y'all are both very pro-Trump, and I get that.
We've got crime and unrest. No. We're trying to look at the actual reality of what's happening. You haven't heard anything in terms of the crime and unrest from Joe Biden's camp. I mean, for the first time, he mentioned it just the other day, but this has been going on for months now, Laura. You're right. People want to make sure that their families are safe, but you haven't seen any solutions on the left in terms of making sure people's families are safe.
But he's causing his campaign is bailing these rioters out of prison.
I mean, fundamentally, let me get in here. So you're not arguing with me on the substance that the fact of the matter is that polling shows that Americans trust Biden more with both racial injustice issues and with the rise in crime. They trust him more. And the reason they trust him more, and he did come out and gave a very eloquent speech condemning the violence and talking about the need to talk about the root problems. So you should take a look at that. It's a great speech. And he is going to campaign on this. But frankly, voters are rating this issue at more like 4 or 5%, the fear of crime. So this is more blown up than one might think. Yeah. And frankly, it's all about the
I think the Democrats, I think the Democrats have made a tactical mistake not being in front, getting in front of the crime that we're seeing across the country. Laura Fink, Matt Braynard, great to see you both. We will keep following this. All right, we will take a break and come right back. Stay with us.